Jonah. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. It's a pleasure having you here, honestly. It's ever since I saw you with Frankie, that was a great experience. Recommend it in Dallas, here in Denton.
Oh yeah, Frankie goes hard.
Yeah, man. And so do you guys, man. It's so awesome when you go out to a concert and the opening band is actually like good. You know, that's like the coolest treat. Sometimes it works out, you know. But yeah, that was the case with you, man. I with your album. It was really cool. Uh the whole album that you guys recorded out in nature, I would love to talk about that, man. Like how did you decide to do that? Like how did that form?
It was kind of born out of necessity, I'd say. We recorded it in
Mm,
October of 2020. So there wasn't like a lot going on, and a lot of people when they were playing shows because of the pandemic and everything, it was like it would be remote or it would be like a virtual. They'd be playing online in some format or some fashion. Um, we have a close friend who he hosts an annual festival every November called No Fest out in Romney, Texas. Our buddy Andrew, and he's a great artist, very prolific. He puts out a lot of art, and every November he hosts this festival, and we would play basically every November. And then because of the pandemic, it was like, hey, this year we're doing something a little different. We're going to do it online. If you could film a set or a song or whatever, um, basically nothing longer than 30 minutes. We'll put it. Basically, he did like a No Fest every weekend of November. I'm pretty sure is what he did. He did a virtual. Hey, these are some of the
yeah.
bands you would have seen at the festival, and everybody kind of submitted, and we really didn't do much all that year for obvious reason. And so I think we were all kind of like a little bummed out because we had all been looking for. We had like South by engagements kind of set up for in the spring that year, and it was going to be our first South by. We had like 4 or 5 shows lined up, and obviously everything kind of fell to the wayside. And we looked at it as an opportunity to be like, hey, we've always kind of talked about filming a set in nature. What if or recording a set in nature? What if we did this for Andrew's festival? We put it online, and that was kind of the initial idea. There wasn't vinyl in mind when we recorded it. It was more or less doing it for our buddy
Mm,
Andrew's festival. So that's kind of where the idea stemmed from. Um, and then from there, we were like, hey, let's put it out as an album. We were happy with it, and um, just to kind of like have like a way to like memorialize the year in a way, or to like put a timestamp on like, hey, this is where we were at. Here's a Polaroid shot of where we were at this time, and sonically speaking. And we put it on the album, and then we sent it off to a couple labels, and we found a label who liked it, and they put it out on vinyl.
wow. That's awesome, man. That's really cool. And how was that experience of because it was all improvised, right? Like you guys
Yeah,
was it?
at that point, and it's funny you say that. At that point, we started playing in 2017. So by 2020, we had been a band for about 2, 3 years. And so we had a set, but it was all based off of improvised jams. And then from
Oh,
there, you record it, and then you're like, oh, that was a really good take, or that was a really good cut of that jam. And then you have like like a good representation of it, and then you're like, well, those are kind of like the songs, and then like you start refining your set around like what you've kind of the way we describe it is like sound sculptures. And it's kind of like when you improv, it's like
nice.
you're chiseling away at this block, right? And then like slowly but surely, the more
Yeah.
you dig in there, definition and details, they define and refine themselves, and you're like, hey, we should do that little thing right there, like we did that one time. And then before you know it, implemented into like the structure of what was once an improvisation and is now, a documented recording or song.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so sick. To just like go back and listen to those, like how long would those jams be? Like how long would you just sit there and listen to you guys jam until you
I,
found like, okay, this is gonna be a song.
it will the earlier days there was way longer improvisations.
Yeah.
Um, for the example of that jam in the woods, we basically just went out and did what our live set was at that time.
Oh, got you. Got you.
But those were all improv jams that we were jamming on. And it's so funny, people will ask us, like, what was that song? And normally the songs don't have track titles, honestly. Sometimes they will, but they most of the time they won't have a track title until the album is coming out and we're having to decide what to call it.
Well,
Because most of the time we're just calling it, hey, the E jam. We're calling it by its key.
that's right.
Like we're like, hey, whatever that new A jam is that we're doing, and
Got you.
we may
I
have like a silly like little moniker for it or something like, oh, we're calling this one Lizard Woman for right now. Is it going to be Lizard Woman on the album? Who knows? Maybe
yeah.
that idea will plant will be a planted seed and then take root and form into a different, a whole different idea. But you never know, you know.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I remember seeing on your set list the E major or E minor, just like a bunch of letters. And now that makes sense.
Yeah,
I
it's
get
just
it
they're
now.
just notes.
Yeah, right.
So when y'all are like, "Can we get the set list?" It's like, yeah, but it's gibberish. I mean, but yes, you're welcome to have it. I mean, it's good to have if you want it,
I love set lists, man. Especially because I mean you can get them signed as well.
Mhm.
So I don't know, it becomes special in
Right.
that way
It's like
sometimes.
it's like commemorates the moment and the evening and the experience, and you'll be like, hey, I was there and
Hmm.
I saw these songs or these keys or these scribbles or
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that night was on that key or something.
right.
It had that vibe. Do you think that certain notes or chords have certain emotions like tied with them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I definitely I believe there's some true magic and science between all that and the way our bodies receive the information that is music. It's a symbiotic relationship. It's a give
Totally.
and a take.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's definitely chords that make you feel certain ways, and there's definitely certain notes that make you feel other ways. And that's kind of what's beautiful about music, and that's why it's not one size fits all. And it's
Yep.
but then again, it is, because it can cover so much ground. It can cover and convey so many different emotions.
But
Um,
yeah.
it's universal,
It's like it's like a paradox because I mean, you go to other cultures and you experience you're like, well, what is this? How is this music? Um, there's other skills that we don't usually work with here in the West. Um,
right?
but there is that part of the music experience that is your own personal experience based on your culture and how you grew up, and that will change. But you guys also have like this ability um to shape the emotion of the room with the music in a way, by just playing like, that's the thing. It's like it's kind of like paradoxical because the person has to, digest it in like how much of it is the person digesting it and how much is you intentionally making is like playing these chords to give off that emotion, you know.
I think that depends on the player. It depends on the musician. It depends on the band. It depends on the audience member. Because it's something Andres, the drummer in Maestro, talks about a lot. And I can't recall who he is quoting. Somebody I'm sure profound and significant. But he quoted some great musician and was basically saying as a player, you're playing for the first listener. And who was the first listener? The first listener was you. You can't listen for anyone else. Um, what appeals to you, what feels right to you, what feels wrong to you. I like to listen to music that I don't like because for that reason, I feel like there's a lesson to be learned there. There's why don't
Mm.
you like this? Why does this get under my skin and make me feel,
Whoa.
and I saw an interview recently, I think it was with Henry Rollins, and he was talking about his listening habits. And what he does is through the week, the 5 days of the week, Monday through Friday, he will listen to things that he's never listened to before, or things that he knows he's maybe not necessarily going to like, because to him it's like he has to like sit down and like listen to it and like wrap his head around it, and then during the weekends he listens to all the things that he knows he loves and he can play infinitely, that don't require a lot of thought, don't require a lot of digestion mentally, because it's just like the stuff that makes you feel good, the music you put on when you're cooking, the music you put on when you're doing the dishes, like things that feel good, that are always going to feel good in any time of day or any setting. um
Mm.
and I like that. I like the idea of challenging yourself as a listener to like listen to things outside of your norm, because like you said, our cultures, and especially in Western civilization, Western music, it's highly colonialized, it's highly whitewashed in that this is what's good and this is what's bad. But then you have
Yeah.
so much other music throughout the world that says otherwise. And then in turn, what's interesting, I think, to each of us as listeners, especially like, and I don't want to speak for you or for anyone, but like those of us who do like to listen, I like to see where they blend. I like to see where you can take something Western and Eastern and from anywhere in the world, and where they have their unique passages and phrases and scales and stuff that's unique to them. But then you have like the areas where, like, say you take the pentatonic blues scale, and you mash that up against something from like Eastern Asia or somewhere in Africa. They all have their roots probably historically from Pangea, and from the
Hmm.
very first people who picked up percussive instruments and reeded like woodwind instruments, and um
And
it's
the harp, just real quick, the harp actually evolved from the bow. Like
right,
the hunting, like
right,
everything from hunting came, it became instruments because people just kept like, oh, look at this, it's making sound there. And that turned into
right.
the piano, guitar, everything stemmed from the harp after that,
It's crazy,
from the
and I
bow.
mean it's all shared. It's all like, it's just wild.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's kind of how I got this podcast out as well, because there's that pressure, right, to not get in the way of actual intelligent people who have things to say, who can change the world, or good musicians who, like you and stuff like that, who can.
I wouldn't say you're getting in the way. I think it's good to have a conversation amongst fellow intelligent people, and like have good conversation and stimulate the mind to think about something more than what's on the TV screen or the computer screen, or even though we're interacting via screens right now, which is an amazing thing, but it's also like it's a huge distraction. It's a huge distraction in mass for many, but then it's also like it's a universal equalizer in another way, in that we can reach out to each other and communicate and have intelligent conversations and talk about music and like what inspires us and why, and I wouldn't say you're getting in the way. If anything, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation.
Dude, thank you, man. It's a friend date. That's all it is, really, man.
For sure.
It's just an excuse to to talk with your friend for 30 minutes or something, for an hour.
Right. And
But
we're having intellectual conversations. We could be playing video games with a headset, and I'm not saying intellectual conversations don't happen there too, but like, it's it's good to sometimes unplug from the other stuff and plug into I don't know. I think what kind of really brings us all here, which is like I don't know, like why are we human? Why are we I don't want to go that far and that deep, but like what, like
No,
you know,
let's
like
come on.
let's
That's where
go.
we
But like
are.
you know, it's like we make music and we do a lot of things that we're like, why do we do this? You know, and to your point, you know, do certain chords, do certain notes elicit certain emotions? Do certain cultures practice music in different ways as to elicit different emotions or maybe different lived experience, different histories? You know, like we come from different places, but that doesn't mean that the human experience isn't shared, even if our music is telling maybe different stories. You know,
Mm,
it's again a universal language.
wow. Yeah. That is so interesting, man. Yeah, I love that.
Some people are good with like numbers. I'm terrible with numbers, but like I'm good. And some people say music is numbers. It is for a lot of people. But like
Yeah.
for me, it's like it's colors. You know, it's like painting, you know, or chiseling a sound sculpture, you know, where like you're building a megazord of sound. Or like, you know, like and you take these building blocks, drums and bass and guitar and vocals, and you put them together, and all of a sudden it's like you've created something that is greater than yourself, uh with, and not to sound pompous or arrogant or full of myself, but like
Right.
you have I don't know, like Maestro talks about it, Maestro Maya, my bandmates, we talk about it, um but like I know that we also talk about it with our girlfriend and our wife and our brother's group Sunbuzzed.
Oh, cool.
Um, my girlfriend plays drums in Sunbuzzed, and Andres's brother plays keys in Sunbuzzed, and then Josh's wife uh, plays guitar in Sunbuzzed, and then our close best friend sings and plays guitar in the group as well. Shout out to Sunbuzzed. Shout out to
Hell yeah.
Lo and Cody and Daniel and Ellie. We love y'all. Um, but yeah, it's like a shared, it's like a Partridge Family thing almost, where like we share equipment and we share, we don't share members, but like we're definitely at each other's shows and we're loading in and out for one another. And one thing that I know that the girls talk about in Sunbuzz is it's almost like the possession, where like you play the music and it's almost like you tune into the music and you tune out of your physical self and you tap into the possession, where like they're possessed by the spirit of their music, and in a way it's almost like the music is being played through them, not them playing the music. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's a
Yeah.
conduit channeling, kind of a receiving through the antenna of the consciousness, if you will. um
Right.
so I feel the same way with Maestro. I feel like when Andres and Josh and I tap into it, and a lot of that I think stems from us starting as a jam band and improv, is you'll be droning for 5-10 minutes on the same chug riff, whatever, and then out of nowhere you'll just spontaneously change, and you'll all do it in unison, and there was no cue, there was no like, hey, now we do go into the other thing. No, it
Mm,
just, it happened organically, it happened naturally, out of like the trance of, you know, the hypnotic riff for 5-10 minutes. Now we went into this other thing, and now we're possessed by another, you know, we're being
mm,
channeled by another avenue of this musical spirit. So I think of Maestro in a way as like the same thing. It's a teacher, it's an entity that we all tune into and tune out of. And when we jam together and we're tuned into it, we're tuned directly into the source. We're tuned directly into Maestro, and Maestro's tuned directly into us, and we're
mhm.
doing Maestro's bidding, and through it, we're learning about music and life, and we're learning how to speak the universal language. And um, yeah, it's weird. It's weird to talk about because a lot of bands, they have songs, right? They have hooks and they have choruses and they have things for people to like sing along to and then like recite and then like um you know, become a part of. But with us, it's like we don't have lyrics. We don't, you know, it's just like it's very much like a feeling, you know, it's
Right.
a channeling of the energies into this whatever it is, you know.
Yes. Yes, and I think you can honestly plug in, you know, that with anything. Take out music, put in uh anything in life. I think that our bodies could be considered radios, or
Absolutely.
instruments of the soul, or
Yeah.
but that doesn't uh um yeah, like I think we can get used to just kind of being in our bodies a lot, and being in this reality can get uh you can like tune out and like really get into routine and just like fall asleep, into to daily life. But getting into like these types of connections with that station, you can call it like tuning, or when you perform in concerts or something, and there's an audience and something really cool happens, or whatever. um I think can transport you to this space where cool things can happen.
Right.
And
It's free of it's
yeah,
like free of almost like time in a way, but which out of the improv, that's kind of what would happen is you would jam. The first time we ever played to go together, Josh, Andres, and I live was in a previous group we were in called Goblins.
right.
And we met, like, I met the synth player like that night, and like it was at Rubber Gloves here in Denton.
Nice.
And this was maybe 2015, 16. And basically, I met John that night, the synth player. And then basically, like, we went on stage and I think we did like a 30, 40-minute jam, did not stop. And like, that was the set. Like, that was
Wow.
so, like, out of just improvising, almost like entering a trance state, you become timeless in a way. Um, and then or you aspire to be
Yes.
to stop thinking about time in a way.
Ooh.
I know when I was very young, and I mean it'll still happen every once in a while, but we got a visitor. Hold on, sorry, we got a visitor. Is it gonna let me flip the? Is it gonna let? Oh, we got Sammy.
Hey,
Oh,
Sammy.
Sammy. Hey, Sammy. I think Sammy's got to go out. Sammy, you got to go outside. You got to go out. Okay, okay, okay. She's doing her little dance. Let me let her out real quick.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, go
I'm
ahead. Go
sorry. I
ahead.
apologize to interrupt the this very important
No,
interview. Uh,
you're good. You're
Come
good.
on, Sammy. Let's go outside. Let's go outside. She'll just go outside and she'll chill. We
Into
we
the
had a little special
lights.
guest today. Hey, Sammy. We had a special guest.
uh,
All right. I'll flip that back around. But yeah,
Very nice, dude.
yes, it's in a way, it's like when I was younger, I know when I would play guitar, I would play for hours just noodling along to CDs or whatever, and just stopping and rewinding and trying to figure out what riffs certain people's were playing. And um you kind of forget. You forget the time of day. You forget if it's night, you forget if it's morning, and then like you get
Mm,
lost in the instrument, and then you look up and you're like, "Oh man, like I thought it was, 4 in the afternoon." And then you look up and you're like, "Wow, it's like 1 in the morning." And you're like, your sense of time is almost thrown off because you're just thinking about what you're doing. You're tuning into, I guess, just the practice of practice. um and that's a big part of it too, is like making lots of mistakes. Make all the mistakes. Just make
mm,
mistakes for days, because like you got to get them all out. You got to get all those mistakes out. And how are you going to do it, unless you make some mistakes? Got to break some eggs if you want to make that omelet. So I still make mistakes every day, intentionally sometimes,
mm.
when I'm playing my instrument, just to like mess things up and just
Yeah,
kind of, what would happen if I did this, and
right. Yeah, because if you don't, then I mean, you're
you're playing it
probably
safe.
yeah, right. You're probably tuning into a fairly popular radio station, Galactic Federation station, that a lot of people tune into.
Yeah, a lot of people like to tune into the popular ones. Yeah.
Yeah, you know the one.
Yeah.
Radio Channel 7, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, but it does seem like you can kind of go out into your day and change your tuning in just like your regular day, like it does, your life can be that profound moment that you're kind of looking for as well,
Yeah, I
maybe.
mean, just the practice of living. I mean, that's an art all in of itself, you know,
Right. Like, yeah, you're
for
always,
sure.
you're a radio that's always flipping out something,
Hmm.
because in order to be in this reality, in this universe, you have to have a body and experience time linearly or whatever. And so that kind of means that at all times you're tuned into some type of station,
Hmm.
and you might as well, tune into something interesting and maybe make something fun or something.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully, fingers crossed.
Follow those desires. Um, I would like to ask you, um, maybe about meditation. Do you meditate? What's your opinion on meditation?
I should meditate more. It's definitely something I have practiced
Me too, me too.
um, minimally in my time. I actually have an aunt who is like an instructor of Kundalini yoga,
Ooh, okay.
hot yoga of its own form, and I've attended like a session or two of hers that she's conducted, and it's pretty interesting stuff. I do think there's science behind a lot of it
Mm-hmm.
that is definitely of value and definitely has like in a way like I don't know, rejuvenating, and then also like in a way, depending on how you practice, uh, therapeutic qualities. For me, my biggest meditation probably is music.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
it in and of itself is a meditation for me. Um, so that is definitely the one I've practiced the longest and the most like consistently. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but in terms of like breathing exercises, transcendental meditation, things like that, I've done a lot of reading on it. Um, it's it's something that I think I will probably practice more as I age. Uh, or as I don't know, the state of the world sometimes can be a very frustrating place to be in or look at or be proximity to. Um, so sometimes meditation and breathing and all that good stuff. Like I think it's definitely a good practice to have to kind of keep one's head on straight because it's very easy to get I think deterred by how bad things can be. But then it's also I think very good to I don't know in a weird way my meditations I think are more about just positive affirmation
Mm.
where like I just like to reflect daily if I can, if I'm capable, and stay present to just remain like grateful and just try and practice gratitude as often as possible. Um, just remembering and staying cognizant of the fact that I am lucky to be here, lucky to experience any of this, the fact that we're having a conversation, the fact that like we woke up and there's moving pictures in front of our eyes and we're breathing and there's air and oxygen and all kinds of other stuff in our lungs and just it's very easy to get bogged down and be like, oh, the world's a terrible place, like why would I want to be here, and like I think we all get a heavy reinforcement of that just through like the world as is. But I think a lot of that is also like um it's up to us in a way to like keep the ball rolling and spin the world in a positive light. Like if we're out here creating art and we're making something cool, like you mentioned earlier, and we're sharing information and we're trying to expand our consciousness and meet new people and see other points of views and not just think that it's just a black and white doomsday world, in the little box
Yeah.
that's on our screens. It's very easy to forget that it is a beautiful place and there are beautiful people in it. And we whether we like it or not, we're sent here to maybe take care of this place and take care of ourselves and take care of each other. And I think capitalism and consumerism as a whole kind of distracts us from that, to be like, no, I need to hoard my piece of the pie, my little, you
Yeah.
know, whatever meager little piece of whatever anyone has. They feel like they've got to hoard it or guard it. And I think that's by design. I think they don't necessarily want us to feel connected and of one mind and of one heart and of one soul. And um, because if we were of one heart and one mind and one soul, we'd all realize that we don't need money and we don't need um, all these trivial things that essentially have been strung out before our eyes like carrots for us to chase after. And that's not what we were sitting here for. We were here to love each other and share and rejoice in the fact that we were born under the sun and we're all burning. So
Yeah.
like we can make it a better place or a worse place. And I'm of the opinion that we should try and um, do our part to leave it better than we found it if we can.
Right. Yeah, no, it reminds me of this book. Do you know Ram Dass by any chance, man?
Mm-hmm.
You seem like you
Be
would
be
know
here
Ram
now.
Dass. Hell yeah, I was actually just reading it. I opened up to a random page and I was just reading it, and I love doing that before podcasts and shit like that, just to, get the brain moving. And one of the things that it said, it was like the third Buddhist noble truth, get rid of, I think it was desire, attachment, and you get rid of suffering, basically.
Easier
And
said than done.
that's
But
exactly
yes.
what I'm saying, man. Like it's like right, like it seems so simple, but it's like there seems to be a like a they also in Be Here Now they say that like purification through fire, getting called to the fire like a moth to a light. There seems to be like almost this desire almost to be here, and a little bit to not be completely detached. So part of us just feels like there's this gravity to be attached, even if we could get the chance to detach. For some reason, if it seems like we just always come back and grab it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the whole thing of reincarnation and samsara, right? Is
Mm,
um
yeah.
and I mean to your point of what Ram Dass said, um Hendrix said something similar. Is like Ram Dass said, if we can get rid of our desires, which is like the third like noble truth of Buddhism, whatever, if we can get rid of our desires, we can get rid of suffering. Hendrix said something very similar, and one of his most famous quotes is the day that, and I may be misquoting him, but in summation, it basically is um, the day that the power of love essentially takes precedent over the love of power,
Mm,
then the world will know peace.
yeah, right.
And so, because of our consumer society that puts us at odds with one another, the expense of living is so high, uh, healthcare being an atrocious state of affairs for anyone who's making money well below, a considerable amount. Uh, we're from day one kind of incentivized to have a hunger for power. And I mean, look at all the people they string out in front of us from history. Napoleon, Genghis Khan, all these like world dominators, Caesar, it's like these are the people that we celebrate through our history. But it's like they were terrible people. They were terrible people that like these are
Christopher
the people that
Columbus.
but these are the people, right? These Christopher Columbus, and like it's not Columbus Day, it's Indigenous Peoples Day. And it's just it we commemorate and we kind of glorify these figures throughout our history, that it's like why are these the stories we're still telling? Why are these old, like, just kind of tyrannical figures the ones that we're like, and we still talk about Hitler, and obviously we still need to talk about Hitler so things like Hitler don't happen again. But like it just, and the Holocaust, it just
Right.
just these terrible atrocities that humans are capable of on the one hand, but then it just I don't know. We're in my mind, we should be more spiritually evolved as a civilization, as I don't know, maybe a petri dish for the aliens, whatever we are. You would think we've come a little further and aspired to maybe greater heights than destroying one another and claiming, essentially a stolen our own. And that's what everybody, that's we're still living in that reality, and we're we're not treating this space with the level of respect that it deserves and that it is owed, and that's
Hmm.
deeply rooted in our history, and
Yeah.
it's a lot to dismantle when the pile of debris is, at least karmically, it goes beyond, the planets, like as far out, the karmic debt that is. So yes, the suffering, and if we get rid of desire, yes, it would be nice because the suffering would end. But I think there's a little more to it than that, because um there's a lot of ignorance and hatred, and yes, greed, and uh desire for world power and power over other people is probably at the root of a lot of the evils in our world. Um, but we're just the poor hobbits from the Shire who want to throw the ring into Mordor, and we have to face all the realms of Middle Earth and all its people, and we've got to come back to tell the tale.
Exactly. Oh wow. Yeah, man. Um, yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Because like it seems like you look at nature. I don't, there's this account called Nature's Metal on Instagram. I don't know if you know
Oh
it.
yeah, I
And
love it.
it's like the most destructive, like monstrosive videos of, and like the cutest animals just destroying one another, or like black holes going on, completely exploding. It's like complete destruction literally happening all the time in the universe. Or like hurricanes, it's like
Mm-hmm.
but as soon as like it happens to us, we're like,
Mm.
oh no, that's wrong. Like that's not supposed to happen. That's not
Too close
natural.
to home. Too close to home.
Yeah, like the earth has no right to be imperfect, even though the whole universe is like, in quotes, suffering, if you want to consider destruction suffering. And we're gonna die, so that's kind of built into the whole human ride of paranoia and all of that goes into us looking at the earth and being like, holy fuck, we're like doing a bad job. But there is like that idea that somehow this is all perfect. Like there's the quote that's like, you aim to try to end suffering without like attachment to whether suffering ends or not. So,
And that's hard. That's hard.
yeah.
Because if you deeply care and you're deeply empathetic, sympathetic for the plight of humanity, it's hard to relinquish that part of oneself to
Hmm.
allow others to cause harm to themselves. But to your point, you say Earth being imperfect or the world being imperfect through maybe like natural disasters or events or whatever it may be. That's the other side of the coin, is maybe those are not imperfect moments. Maybe that's all part of it. It's like you have to destroy things to create new things. And it's the whole, the laws of physics of, cannot be energy cannot be created or destroyed. It's like it takes on a new shape, it takes on a new form. So I mean, when the world and the universe says something must go, it must go, and when something new
Hmm.
must come, it must come. And as Gandalf says, a wizard never arrives too early, or too late.
Hmm.
They're right when they're meant to, so it's, or something along those lines. And um to me, I'm just happy to be part of the process. I hope I'm not destroying. I hope I'm planting seeds of growth of where I go, more so than destruction. I know I have my part in it. You know, I think about the movie Fern Gully that I saw as a kid with like Robin Williams as the bat, and like it's all about the fairies and the trees and like pollution, and they're chopping down the trees, and pollution is literally the bad guy in the movie. It's like it's smog and like smoke and soot out of like industrial machines that are chopping down the trees, and it's like sentient, like the gas, the smog is like sentient, and it's got like a face and it sings and it talks.
Oh,
And I just remember seeing that as a
whoa.
kid and just being like, no, like you know.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah, Fern Gully, shout out Fern Gully. We're all scarred from childhood for not taking care of planet Earth.
facts.
But
Yes. But with that idea that energy can't be destroyed or created when we die, it's kind of like that idea that momentum that you die with your whole life kind of keeps it doesn't stop when you die, because energy can't just be destroyed. But
right,
if you find a way, because if you die and you are in that paranoia animalistic state of holy shit, the whole world is on fire, without even like trying to look at the fire inside of yourself, and you just die like that, you will probably pretty quickly rush back into a body or something, into a
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I've read the Tibetan Book of the Dead or the Great Liberation by hearing, or the Bardo Total, depending on how you refer to it. But I think I pronounced that right. I may be wrong. But that's basically what they talk about. We pass, and
Mm,
depending on how attached we are to ego, like what you're describing, if we look at the fire as destructive, as like, oh no, oh woe is me, I'm gone forever, I was so special, I was so important, da 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 da, like it'll never be this good again. Of course, you will look at the fire as destruction, but you can look at the
mm,
fire as cleansing and freeing yourself of all those attachments.
mm,
And so normally when you cling to the ego, you you essentially you're essentially broken down into the pile of ash, and then you probably your energy clings to another vessel or form because it needs to exist as something or someone, or achieve something, or that longing, that desire still stands, it's still there. Or you're like, oh great, this is awesome, I'm done, like I'm free of this, like, and maybe you become the phoenix they talk about, who knows. But
mhm.
um yeah, it's a lot to consider. What you're describing though, like dying but then like not dying, it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever read Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, but it's the way he talks about time through the central character. I believe his name is Billy Pilgrim. Um, he's basically jumping in and out of time throughout the entire book. He's not experiencing
Mm,
his life uh, in a linear fashion. He's experiencing it kind of cyclically, um, where he's just jumping in and out of different moments throughout his timeline. And like he's seen his death and he's seen his birth, and he knows like his most humiliating moments. He knows his greatest triumphs, all those different things. Um, and it's a pretty good book. I recommend it if you haven't read it, because it's only like 200 something pages, maybe three, but
cool. Is that where the time traveler mantra came from? The outside over, under,
Time Traveler's
inside?
Mantra. I don't know about that. That was, and that's honestly probably out of all the tracks we have, that's probably the closest thing we have to lyrics. Because you can hear Josh
Yeah.
in that one say, I believe the mantra is outside, over, under,
Under,
inside.
inside.
And so when we listened back to that, when we were naming the tracks, I was like, that almost, I think we were all sitting around and we were like, that almost sounds like a mantra. And then we were like, what kind of mantra is it? And we sat around and tried to figure out whose mantra it was. And then we decided it was the time traveler's mantra.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
which That's an interesting thought. Thinking about it as words, outside, over, under, inside. Uh, if you think about it, that's almost in a way verbally or in a mantra form trying to describe, I guess, like, what is it, the torus field or whatever it is,
Whoa.
the Fibonacci spiral that spins in on itself or whatever it
Oh,
is. But
the golden ratio.
yeah, but like it's like it's the three-dimensional, four-dimensional shape that's the spiral that, like, it flows in on itself and then it flows out on itself, and it's infinite. Yeah, it's like I can't remember the term for it, but like outside, over, under, inside, it's kind of like that. Like you go outside, you go outside, over, yeah, you go outside, you go over, you go under, you go inside. So I don't know, it's directions, I guess, to how to move about time.
Right. Yeah, kind of like how to maybe even move. Like that's the thing though. It can be put into like when you said it, I was like, oh, it kind of reminds me of breathing, like air coming in and out of the
Mm-hmm.
lungs.
Exactly. And we're supposed to be that field. We're supposed to be that same. Um, I think it's a torus field.
Mm,
I may be incorrect, but I'm not a into physics. Just
yeah.
I'm into music. I'm into music and the
I
metaphysical, I
got you.
guess.
Yeah, no, but maybe like we are in every because you can look at it kind of like in reincarnation wise, like we are coming in and out of bodies, kind of like also the same way that you let your dog in and out of like
Oh, the
outside.
house.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
we're bored. Let's go back inside, over and under, and now let's go back outside. And it's like death is that going through the door to go like back outside, and then you get tired of outside, so you come back inside, and you just kind of do this kind of infinitely, maybe.
Within you, without you.
Oh, cool. As above, so below. Oh,
Yeah.
the
Yep.
same
No, that's
thing.
the one.
There's also, it also reminds me of the Timothy Leary quote of drop in, tune in, drop out, something like that.
Yeah. Tune in, drop out. No, wait. See, now I'm like, which one is it?
Man, wow.
Tune outside, tune under, tune tune inside, tune over. I don't know, but
Oh
apple
man.
turnover, blueberry turnover. I don't know,
Yeah, man,
but
that is what you should tell yourself as you are time traveling through bodies and space in the bardos of death.
the Bardos, yeah,
Just remember strawberry outside, blueberry
strawberry
inside.
outside, blueberry inside.
Oh my God. Well, Jonas, thank you so much, man, for joining us. And where can people find you, man, if people wanted to reach out and listen to your stuff?
Maestro Maya is on Instagram, Spotify, Facebook, Bandcamp, all that good stuff. We're at Maestro Maya TX, short for Texas, on all of those platforms. Um, we got some shows coming up. We're playing with Acid Mother's Temple at Rubber Gloves in Denton, October 18th. It's a Wednesday. They came all the way from Japan. It's going to be awesome with
Oh,
Stargazer Lilies from Florida. They're very shoegazy, but like the real deal. A lot of these
whoa.
kids out here, they're like, we're shoegaze. It's like, no, no. And like they were actually like probably making shoegaze music back when My Bloody Valentine was making shoegaze music in the late 80s, early 90s.
Mm.
And they actually sound very gazy. Um, I won't plug too much more.
You guys also
We're
sound
playing,
pretty gazy.
what's that?
You guys also sound pretty gazy.
Oh, we definitely get the wall of sound thing. That's Josh's territory. The vocals and the guitar, it's like a wall of sound, shoegaze distortion, echo, reverb, wah, fountain, um,
Psychedelic.
psychedelic. We call it psychedelic space rock, but it
Yeah,
started as an
perfect.
improv jam band. And then we got two other shows. We're playing a festival in Galveston, our first time in Galveston, October 21st at Third Island Party Festival. It's going to be at Galveston Island Brewing, and we're playing with a bunch of cool bands from like everywhere: Austin, Houston, Galveston. We're playing with like Billy Glitter out of Austin, uh, Cactus Flowers, India Tigers in Texas, bunch of just cool groups. And then we're playing October 30th at Andy's. It's a Monday, day before Halloween, with Corey Hansen of Wand out of LA with our buds in Same Brain out of Fort Worth and I think now Denton. Um, they're great. So come check us out. Any of those
Oh yeah.
dates.
Hell yeah. And all of those dates will be on my website and in the description
Whew.
of this podcast. And dude, I will really try to make it out there on Wednesday. That sounds so awesome. I forgot to mention it. I'll most likely see you there on Wednesday
Awesome.
on the concert, man.
I look forward to it.
So sweet, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric. That was awesome.
Hell yeah. Hare Krishna.
You too. Hey, Krishna.